Okay, now we have a quorum, so I call this special meeting, the special council workshop to order for Tuesday, October 3rd, 2017. Let the record show that the council is present except for Mrs. King and Mrs. Fleming, so we do have a quorum. So with that, first item is DS 17-103, discuss agenda items for the regular city council meeting of October 17, 2017. And the first thing on there is our minutes. MN 17024, consider minutes of regular city council meeting of September 26, 2017. Anybody have any questions or comments on those? Seeing none, we'll move on to resolutions. RS 17105, consider memorandum resolution to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Texas Commission on Fire Protection and the Clean Fire Academy. And that's Chief Branks. Welcome.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. So, Council, what you have before you is a memorandum of understanding between the Texas Commission on Fire Protection and the Killeen Fire Department. It consists of the memorandum of understanding for online testing at the Killeen Fire Academy. The TCFP requires credentialing in various disciplines in the fire protection service. It allows for local firefighters and the Killeen fire personnel to test online. That's what the MOU is for. And it's an agreement between TCFP and the Killeen Fire Academy. Killeen fire personnel will not have to travel to various parts of the state to test. They'll be able to test locally here doing online testing. It conforms to city policy and state laws by agreement. Alternatives are not entering into the online testing MOU with TCFP, which result in Killeen KFD personnel as well as KISD personnel, students, to have to travel longer distances for certification testing. Entering into the agreement, which is what is recommended, creates cooperation between the Texas Commission on Fire Protection and the Killeen Fire Department personnel. It helps the KSD students and our fire personnel with testing for certification credentialing online at the local fire academy. The only financial impact is that it will probably save money, so it really has no financial impact negatively to the Killeen Fire Department. And staff recommends approval of the memorandum of understanding for online testing to the Killeen Fire Academy, with the Killeen Fire Academy. Any questions?
Questions for Chief Branks? All right, none. Thank you. RS 17-106, consider memorandum resolution authorizing a lease with purchase option for a backhoe for the Street Service Division. Mr. Tidlaka.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. The Street Services Division is in need of replacing one of their two backhoes. The backhoe being replaced is on a 3-year lease purchase that expires in December. Due to the escalating cost of maintaining this type of heavy equipment as it ages, it's not felt that purchasing the existing unit would be in the best interest of the city. Therefore, Street Services is requesting to initiate a new 3-year lease purchase for a replacement backhoe. This backhoe is a critical piece of equipment used with ongoing street maintenance programs, and replacement of the unit will ensure continued reliability. The new backhoe would again be supplied by Holtcat of Waco, utilizing buy-board cooperative pricing and financed through Caterpillar Financial Services Corporation. The monthly payment for this new 3-year lease would be $1,909.45. There is an option at the end of the lease to either return it or purchase it for $62,685. Funding is available in the FY18 Street Services Division Equipment Rental Account, totaling $30,454. And there's a typo on that PowerPoint that we'll correct before the council meeting regarding that amount. It's actually $30,454. Next is a picture of what the backhoe would typically look like. And staff recommends procurement of the backhoe, and I'd be happy to address any questions you may have.
Questions? All right, thank you. That moves us to public hearing, PH 17-045. Hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance requested by Richard Taylor of EcoSite LLC on behalf of Florence HP LLC, case number Z17-21, to rezone approximately 0.05 acres out of the John Essere Survey, abstract number 296, from RMH, which is Residential Mobile Home District, to RMH with a conditional use permit, a CUP, for a 110 feet tall monopole communication structure. The property is locally known as 3205 Florence Road in Killeen, Texas. Mr. McElwain, welcome.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Council, Mr. City Manager, and Ms. City Attorney. The item before you is for approval of a conditional use permit. It is, as the Mayor mentioned, for a 110-foot tall monopole communication facility. As you'll see on the next slide, we have an aerial that shows the approximate location of the tower. It's back pretty far off of Florence Road on a site that's being leased that's approximately 50 by 50 feet. It's approximately 750 feet back from the road. What we have on the next slide is the surrounding zoning of the property. We've got B5 commercial to the north, and due west of this site, right where the tower location notation box is a single-family zone property that's actually owned by the city of Killeen. It's a drainage tract, so we won't have any development there. And that's an old aerial, but what you have is a mobile home site. Those units have been removed from the site. On the next slide, we've provided you with the cattle gates that show the entrance to the property. And then on the next two slides, exhibits 4A and B, we've got basically information provided by the applicant that shows easements and the like on the property. We can advance to this slide here. That gives you some idea of what's being proposed within the 50 by 50 foot bullpen area. Our next slide, exhibit 5, is the elevation drawing that shows the scale of the tower, as well as the fencing that will go around it. And Tom, if you can advance to the next slide. This is a 120-foot tall fall radius that we drew around the tower. It's basically 110 feet plus the 10-foot antenna to give you some idea of if it were to fall, it would stay entirely within the boundaries of the property that's owned by the current owner. We also had provided to us a cell tower, well, as you were, we created a cell tower proximity map on the next exhibit. That's a 1 mile radius. There are 6 cell towers within this 1 mile. They're denoted by the red dots. The closest is about 2,800 feet away. Now, what's interesting about that is that when we had discussions with the applicant, they did, in all earnest, try to co-locate, but were unable to do so. And they'll talk to you about that in greater detail next Tuesday about this situation. It's just not feasible for them. On the next slide, we've got provisions in the code that require a landscape buffer. Our recommendation to the P&Z was to have that waived. It's a pretty heavily wooded site. It actually may be more brush that's grown up since those aerials. It's pretty heavily wooded. We didn't see the need in having more plantings out there because you won't be able to see it from the road as it is. Lastly, we have an exhibit that shows the notification boundary of the proposed conditional use permit. In our presentation of this item to the Planning and Zoning Commission, we recommended approval of the tower with the following conditions: that the tower be set back a minimum of 50 feet from the adjacent R1 zone property. The tract to the west is owned by the city of Killeen. The enclosure shall be set back 25 feet from the rear property line, and the landscaping requirements for the enclosure shall be waived. So this is the first tower in the new tower provisions that we had approved by you all a couple of months ago. So they have designed it to a higher standard to accept the wind loads that we have in the code, and in doing so, we're able to reduce the setback against the commercial zone property to the north, and the staff recommended that the P&Z waive the one-to-one setback against the residential because it's a drainage tract. We won't have any housing out there at all. It's just an area that Mr. Olson's staff maintains for drainage purposes. So it was recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission. To you, there are no protests, and I'd like to answer any questions you have about the tower.
Questions? All right. Seeing none, we're just going to move on to PH 17-046A. Hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance requested by the planning staff flume number Z17-22, to amend the comprehensive plan's future land use map from an estate designated area to general residential designated area of approximately 2.673 acres, being part of the Robert Cunningham Survey Abstract Number 199. The subject property is generally located along the west right-of-way of Cunningham Road, north of Hope Lane, and west of Fawn Drive in Killeen, Texas. Mr. McElwain.
Yes, Counselor, you may know the properties in question were annexed into the city in early 2008, and later that year, we went through the first zoning of these properties, most of which were zoned R1. Subsequent to that, a consultant devised a future land use map for the city, and the quadrant of Hope Lane, Onion Road, Stagecoach Road, and Cunningham Road was basically designated as a state on a future land use map. The reality of it is a great deal of the property within this quadrant is actually already zoned R1. So we have a development proposal that necessitates a change to the future land use map. It's actually for 2.673 acres, which is highlighted in yellow. This is a site that is being proposed for 8 residential lots. We'll advance to the next slide. That shows the parcel on the future land use map immediately east of this area along Cunningham Road. You have general residential and suburban residential right around the Valley Vista Drive area, and that quadrant of estate that I just spoke about. If we'll advance to the next slide. And the next slide, I'm sorry. When we noticed for this property on the agenda, we left out a great deal of the acreage. We had a snafu there with how we noticed. What we're going to do is bring back to you the rest of the acreage that's owned by this applicant. But right now, what they need is your consideration for just the 2.63 acres. The rest of the property is already zoned R1, but we have a development proposal in-house that needs your consideration for this future land use map amendment. But we don't want to have just a pocket of general residential. We're going to bring back another staff originated report that brings in the rest of the property that they own along Hope Lane so that it's contiguous to the Cunningham and Hope Lane right-of-way. The effect of this future land use map amendment is basically to allow this little 2.6 acre to transition to an R1 zoning standard. It matches the other acreage that they own. They're going to put in about a 48 lot residential subdivision. We're still talking about that with them and negotiating right-of-way standards and the like. But I'd like to answer any questions that you have. Just to let you know, if you do not approve the future land use map amendment, they will simply just leave this part as ag zoning and still develop the rest because it's already zoned R1. So I just want to make you aware of that.
All right, any questions? Mr. Olson?
Surprise.
Surprise, go ahead.
I just wanted to note to the council that the staff report has various sections in it. One of the sections in the staff report is the financial impact of these decisions. This particular, and on all the zoning issues, it says that the financial impact is 0 because the city doesn't have to spend any money to do the rezoning or the change in the land use plan or so forth. However, I don't think that we're doing a thorough enough job because there is going to be a financial impact on the city. As the property develops into the future, there will be both revenues and expenditures required from the development of this property. And we have not developed a model. We have not gone to the extent of being able to say to the council what those impacts are. I think this is something that we need to do for the future. I think we need to have a better idea of what these zoning changes and requests are going to do to the city's overall financial health. We can't answer those questions yet. And I think it's something the city council needs to start paying attention to and join me in asking those questions as we deal with future land use issues.
In something like that, I think that the council would probably need to go beyond just the zoning. I mean, I think we would have to, and I know that the council was very adamant at one time about finding out the plating, so I think that you would have to go all the way through to the plating and what they're going to do, and not just the zoning.
Well, and I think in order to answer those questions, the financial questions that come up about these kinds of really important decisions, I think it goes beyond our staff capability to figure it out. I think we're going to have to get some help as we work through our comprehensive plan. The council has indicated on multiple occasions that you're interested in talking about our growth management policy, about our housing policy. This kind of goes to the heart of those questions, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention. I think there's more work that needs to be done, and I think our past practice is not complete enough until we do that.
Yeah. Mr. Okry.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this is something, I'm glad Mr. Olson brought it up because I've been saying it with planning and zoning. But planning and zoning for the longest have said that the conditions with transport thoroughfare plans, utility, water, sewer were not germane. We were only looking at one section. We're not looking at the impact of development as things develop out, what those ancillary things were. So I'm glad to see that we'll be working towards including that so that we can see these financial impacts as far as revenues as well as expenditures that the city is going to be on the hook for.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Mr. McElwain.
Yes, as Mr. Olson made mention, it is beyond our capabilities right now. We are going to engage in discussions with applicants regarding future land use map amendments. It may be prudent to consider if those are things we need to continue in the near term until we get answers. It doesn't preclude an applicant from applying, but I think with all due respect to giving you the information that you need, we'll have to move forward like the city manager requests, and that's gonna take some time, obviously.
Yeah.
And some resources, so.
And I think, and I just want to say, I think there has to be a way that there's a certain step where we figure out, because I agree with that, but on the other side of it, sometimes we get zoning issues where people are just trying to sell a piece of property, rezone it at a different, they don't know what's going to be on there, if anything yet. And so sometimes it's going to be challenging to figure out what the cost is without having an idea of what's going to go on there. So there has to be a certain stage where when they come back to us and say, okay, now we can do the calculations of how much it's going to cost the city.
Yes, sir.
But on this stage, I think it'd be too early for a lot of properties out there to figure that out. All right, moving on. PH 17-46B, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance requested by Lagan Construction, Inc., case number Z17-22, to rezone approximately 2.673 acres out of the Robert Cunningham Survey Abstract number 199 from A Agricultural District to R1 Single Family District. The property is located north of Hope Lane, approximately 1,200 feet west of Cunningham Road in Killeen. Mr. McElwain.
This is the second part of this two-part request, council. The same subject site, 2.673 acres, is currently zoned as agricultural. It is part of a larger tract owned by Lagan Construction, which is that rectangular-shaped parcel that extends eastward, that is currently zoned R1. The site is located due north of Hope Lane and unimproved right-of-way and west of Sassy Lane, which is also west of Cunningham Road. On your next slide, you'll see that circumstance that I was talking about where we've got large sections of R1 zoning. Just so happens that this tract was not zoned R1, and for development consistency, they're looking to have that included in part of their development proposal. You have basically a blank field. The site is actually beyond the tree line there, but it's heavily wooded and far away from the road. On the next slide, we'll show you the individuals that were notified with the surrounding property owner mail out. No objection was received, and it is the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission for approval of R1 zoning. This is by a vote of 4-1 with one commissioner, Ms. Harkin, in opposition. Her opposition was based on the fact that she wanted to have the entirety of the acreage included in the future land use map amendment, but that was our issue, and we didn't want to hold up the applicant. But I'd like to answer any questions that you have about this.
All right, questions? All right, thank you, Mr. McElwain. All right, moving back to our DS items. DS 17-104, City Manager updates. Mr. Olson.
Mayor, we want to show the council two videos that we have of recent city events. One of them is the dedication of the ARAC facility that took place a couple of weeks ago after about a year or so of construction. It was part of the DAG grant. I can't remember what DAG stands for, but it's a defense something. Yeah, you heard her. So that's what it is. And it helps us build our relationship with the military and strengthen the cooperative work that we do. So there was a project for ARAC, which is an Army, where is that voice? Radar Approach Center, which basically helps both the civilian and the military sides of our airport. And then we had a dedication of a sidewalk that took place. So we want to show you both of those, and that's my update. So roll them.
Today we had the ribbon cutting for the Army Radar Approach Control Facility, a very, very important facility here for Killeen and for the region. This facility controls 60 nautical miles of airspace around Fort Hood. Now, why is that important? Because without this facility, Fort Hood can't train or operate. How does it impact us over at the regional airport? Without this facility, it'd be very difficult for the regional aircraft, the airlines that we have coming in and out daily, to maintain our passenger flows and the destinations that we go to. What this control facility does, it controls 8 airports within its range. It controls over 38 instrument approaches. So that means if the weather's bad, airplanes have instrumentation that allows them to land in that bad weather. The capability in this facility is amazing. And what it does, controlling other aircraft, they do almost 700,000 operations per year here, controlling various operations. What we did, we took this building down to the shell around it. Everything was stripped out. Everything that you're looking at now is all new. We gave them the space we need. The facility you see here now, which is the main control center, didn't exist before. It was just one small dark room. Well, now we have a state-of-the-art supervisor station. We have controlling stations. They have a new training room that they never had before. So we're celebrating giving them more space, more equipment that's up to date. So now they're able to do their job better, more efficiently, more effectively, in just a much nicer environment that they had before.
The success of rehabilitating and opening this new facility is a powerful statement on the strong ties between our post and the surrounding communities.
We aggressively went after what's known as the Defense Economic Adjustment Assistance Grant offered by the state of Texas. We were awarded one for $3.45 million. Killeen Economic Development Corporation contributed $525,000, and Fort Hood contributed $1 million. That's the cash contributions. We had another $500,000 to $600,000, what we call in-kind services, between both our city and Fort Hood that contributed to the total cost and total thing of building. So we got a very good project, and I'm glad to say we finished the project under budget and on time. And I think that's a tribute to the people that worked on it. Our engineers, Garver, the construction team, United Services of Texas, and everybody else that worked on it. Really a good job to make that happen.
Well, this is actually a culmination of really just a tremendous team effort. The project began as a Safe Routes to School project, and we were engaged in conversations with the city of Killeen. We were tremendous partners in ensuring that our students arrive and depart school safely each and every day.
Once the project completed design, we had about a 3-year period where we waited. We built funding through the county resources, we built funding through city resources, paired that with our final funding coming from the federal and state government, and we built what you see here today, and that's a 3rd-mile long trunk trail with some additional connections into the neighborhoods.
Obviously, we didn't walk the entire trail just now, but it's going to provide a safe passageway, first and foremost, for our students to and from school, but it also is an addition to our community, for community members, for students, for parents to get out and walk early in the morning or in the evening safely. As you can see, it's a lit sidewalk area, which, just like I say, a tremendous benefit to our community here. We obviously are the beneficiary to this project and will continue to be the beneficiary to this project for many years. And really, it took Bell County, the City of Killeen, Texas Department of Transportation to initiate the project, and so we again are so grateful for their efforts on this tremendous project.
Personally, I think this is one of the best parts of my job. We get to come out and see something that went literally from a line on a piece of paper to a physical sidewalk on the ground. And what I would hope that citizens would take away from this is that we're doing great things here in Public Works here in Killeen, and we're making this community safer, we're making it better, and we're doing it on a daily basis.
Was that it?
That's it.
Oh, wow. Well, that was good. I appreciate that, because I think that we need a lot of good stories like that. And those are, I think, people can share those, right, on their social media and stuff like that. So those are good, because I think we do a lot of great things. And I appreciate you bringing this up. So
Yeah, these will be posted to our webpage and to our social media sites.
oh, fantastic. All right. So next is, we're going to skip DS 17-105, because that's going to be a closed session right there. We're going to move on to RQ 17-007, future agenda items, request, and the first thing is KEDC briefings. And so, Mr. Harris?
Yes, I just wanted to put on before the council an approval to bring forward a discussion from the KDC, so we can just get a deeper understanding, so they can brief us, so we can get a deeper understanding of their operations, their techniques and things they do, and at the same time, as far as some of even their negotiation tactics, if you will. Not, like I said, there's some things that they won't be able to tell us contractually, so, but the things that they can tell us, to let us know, and for us to ask them questions as well, to get a better understanding of how things operate with them and how things operate between us and them together, the city and them as well.
All right. And I think, me personally, I think that wouldn't be a bad idea, because I think that it's something that a lot of people don't understand. I know I spoke about it recently, what happens and what is the purpose of KEDC, and I know a lot of people really didn't understand it, so it'd probably be a good idea if we kind of just bring it up and let them know exactly why they're there for. So, Council, what are your thoughts? Mr. Okri?
Yes, my thoughts are this. I talked with KDC. I talk to them with members, and I fully understand what it is that they do.
Yeah.
And I know the bottom line of what KDC does is through their things, they generate sales tax, which in turn generate revenues for us. So I'm good. I can do it on my own.
Okay. Anybody else? Do we need to bring this on a council, or?
I have no objection to council hearing.
We're good, we're good, we're good?
I know what they do, but
You're on that this committee too, so he's like,
the idea is sometimes we got to take a stand
yeah,
and go speak to them also as well, like Mr. Oakley said.
Yeah.
And I understand what they're doing one-on-one, but I have no objection for them to hear what they got to say.
yeah. And I'm sure Mr. Crutchwell will do a good job, and I don't mind that one, because I think that sometimes we just need to provide more information, especially in situations like this, so we'll just get with KDC and just have them put that on some kind of future agenda to give us an update on that. Next one is revision of city appointment authority. That one, I didn't know what that one was, so
Oh,
Mr.
That
Harris.
that one basically is the full council appointing people to different commissions and boards and so forth, because right now, I know there are some councils that, individuals, that we can appoint people to, but just going to a point where the full council does the appointing to, I guess if you want to say, just make, equal representation and so forth, and just that basic thought and procedure.
So my understanding is, don't we do that already, Ms. Davis?
Are you talking about the subcommittees, the ones who are responsible for bringing back recommendations?
Yes, I mean, just those two, I mean, just in general, just overall in general, the full council, putting names for it, or putting nominees for it from the council, whatever, and the full council agreeing, in all cases, to who's going to be appointed to subcommittees, special committees, and so forth.
So are you talking about ad hoc committees that the mayor is responsible for appointing to?
Yes.
So you don't want ad hoc committees, you want all committee types to be appointed by all of them?
Yes.
So is that something we want to discuss, or we leave it the same, council? He's asking for a quorum if it's something that we bring back as a discussion item. Mr. Kilpatrick.
I would like the city manager to address this, because I believe that the staff is working on a comprehensive protocol for all appointment and committees right now.
Yeah.
And when they would then let the city manager address how he would like to present that to the council.
Okay.
So let me
Mr. Olson.
make a comment to that. We have been working on a proposed revision to the protocol, or protocol resolution that you work from. And I think we're getting close. I think probably before the end of this calendar year, we'll be able to have that discussion in a very comprehensive way. This is one of the components of that protocol. And whatever we do with it, I think having that conversation inside the context of the whole protocol resolution would be a really good idea.
Okay.
I mean, you may want to talk about it now, but I would highly recommend that you don't make any decisions on it until we deal with the whole package.
Well, I think what we're trying to discuss, is this something that we want to bring back, or do we want, as Mr. Kilpatrick said, just kind of let the manager handle it for now and then bring back something when we have the protocol discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that will be prudent to do. We have discussions on the several of the commissions, boards. And if you don't take it all into context as a whole, then you're looking at piecemealing the process procedures of the mayor's appointing, the council appointing, special committee, or special boards and committees which are not appointed by us, but the CTC puts a representative in. That's theirs. We don't appoint them. They sit on our committees. KISD does. We have to look at the whole context of the protocol, I believe, in order to start doing. If we start looking at just what we're doing right now, it may be counterproductive to what is being done right now of the whole. And we may be discussing something that we're either getting ahead of the game with them, or we're behind the game. They've already got a recommendation to bring to the council. So my view would be to wait until, let the city manager do that.
Is appointments, what does the charter say about that? What does charter say about it?
Mrs. Davis?
The charter does not address council appointments. It is addressed. It is addressed in your protocol document, so in order to make the change that Mr. Harris is requesting at this point, it would take a change to your protocol document. And as Mr. Olson had said, that is a document that will probably be greatly changing within the next few months anyway, and that is absolutely something that council can take up at that time, the way that you want to handle committee appointments, the types of committees that you want to appoint, all of that is something that can be taken up at that time.
So I think that's probably a better idea. Mr. Harris?
Just clarification, when you talked about KISD and CTC, I'm just talking about people on the council. And anybody that we appoint, as a count, that we have the authority to appoint. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about other entities that appoint people to be on the committees or anything like that and so forth. But you were saying that you would think it's a good idea to just wait until
Protocol.
From a staff point of view, we believe that this discussion needs to take place about the entire protocol, including this piece.
Okay.
So I think it would be the best use of the council's time if we had that comprehensive discussion all at one time.
Okay, all right, I can agree to that.
Is that good? Is that good with everybody? Mr. Okrie?
Talking about subcommittee, because council members are appointed to subcommittee appointings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just from a logical standpoint, if you're on a subcommittee for a committee, that council member that's on that subcommittee knows more about would know more about the operation and the nature of the committee. So for a council, I would not want to appoint anybody that's on a volunteer, or what's it called, clean volunteers, because KVI, because I'm not there. I'm not on the subcommittee. So how would I know what they're doing if I'm not on the committee?
Yeah.
I'm on 9 right now, subcommittee. I've assigned 9 of them, I believe. And I do believe the council does go through the process, and we decide among ourselves which committees or subcommittees we're going to sit on. So it's a matter of us actually being available to serve the committees.
Yeah, and I think those are discussions we'll have when we have that protocol discussion. So I think for now, we'll just hold off on that one for when we bring the protocol, and it'll be discussion on subcommittees, all the committees that's in there, so.
Yes.
Okay, we're good with that one. Mr. Olson?
Let me just add one other thought, just so you understand what we're thinking. We're working on a comprehensive financial policy update, which I'm hoping to bring to the council in November. And as soon as that's over, as soon as we're through that financial policy, I would intend to bring the protocol. So I can't tell you specifically what date that's going to be, but I am very confident that we'll bring financial policy in November, and as soon as that's over, the next work session, we'll bring the protocol.
No. Okay. All right, and the last one is document shredding investigation. Mr. Harris?
Okay. That's just basically clarifying the whys. And like I said, because I still have, I guess, questions, curiosities and questions about it, and I think some other people do as well, but I think that would be one of the things to just, that would just be better to kind of put out there, explain, and because even as we move towards the future, there are some things from our past that we do need to explain to help clear things up and so forth, and I think this is one of those things where, so if everything was, if everything was good and so forth, then people don't need to know that everything was good, so we can squash all the talking and everything like that. And if, hopefully it doesn't turn out to be the opposite either. But I think that's just something that needs to be taken care of as we move into the future, though. That little past component. So it'll be brought for discussion. And
All right, I think my point is I just move on, let's go, move forward, but that's just me. And anybody else want to bring this document shredding thing? Mr. Kilpatrick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe, I don't really understand what it'd be on our agenda to talk. I believe if we want to give that as an item to the council, I'd like to give that item to our internal auditor as a tasking to look at, and then he would come back upon completion of that audit in that nature to come back to the council. But to have it on the agenda just as an open-ended topic, who's going to brief it and what they're going to tell us?
Who's going to investigate? That's, who's going to investigate and all that? There's a lot of stuff. I think that's already done, but.
I'm not objecting to that topic being addressed, but what's the process and the protocol, how it is addressed, other than putting it on the agenda, and city manager is going to tell us what. Who's going to do the investigation to tell us?
I would have to do the city auditor's work.
Exactly. Yes, sir. And the city auditor works for us, and that should be a recommendation that we would put to the council to say this is be added to the internal city auditor's workload, tasking, and upon completion, then he would come back and brief the council on what is his performance.
And my thing is, what is he investigating? Because we already know things already, so I think we can probably figure it out in 2 seconds, because we did pay $400,000 for the audit, which they already told us what happened. So, you know, things got followed procedure, got shredded. There ain't nothing we can do about it now. So I don't know what different outcome he would come with.
I'm not favorable of tying up the city manager's time doing the auditor's job. And
We're
again,
done.
the audit, that was one of the things within the audit that was identified. So I don't know, it's time for us to move forward from the audit. I think we have the information that we need to, and what's gonna be critical is the policies. We're policy deficient. And this would be one of those things that we would need to review. And so I think the time is would be spent, or more beneficially spent, developing and reviewing policies. We're policy deficient.
Yeah.
That's what's wrong.
Very good. Anybody else?
I don't know where that come from, but we just went through an audit already. We just got to fix what we got. I mean, for a person who do not want to be around for committees and so forth, he should come out with some weird ideas. I don't know where they come from. That's what I'm saying.
No, and I agree. I think that, like Mr. Oker, we got to create policy, look at the policies we have in place about document shredding and move on from there. It's like, the ones that we have in place now, following the laws are sufficient, but going back to figuring out what document shredding investigation, and I think that's just not relevant at this time. So do I need a consensus? Do we need to bring this up or not? All those that want to bring this up, raise your hand. One.
Internal
All those-
auditor.
Huh?
Turn it over to the internal auditor.
Auditor, we can do that. That's, we get the committees later on. So, I mean, he's got a lot on his plate too, so. But right now, we just want, all those that don't want it, just raise your hand. So that way we can kill it officially. So, okay, thank you. We're moving on. And now, if there's nothing further, then we're going to go to DS 17-105, receive an update on Bo Burkett Media. And I don't know if it's, I covered it up, LTV, City of Killeen, Zoning Board of Adjustments, and Earl Abbott, and discuss settlement, negotiations, and options. So, you ready? So at this time, pursuant to the Texas Opens Meeting Law, VTCA Government Code 551-001, the mayor now calls a closed meeting of the City Council on this third day of October 2017 at 5:45 p.m. under the following authorities. Section 551.071, litigation update. The City Council will receive an update on Bo Burkett Media LP versus City of Killeen, Killeen Zoning Board of Adjustments, and Earl Abbott, and discuss settlement, negotiations, and options. Public discussion of this matter would not be in the best interest of the city. So at this time, I call a closed session.